Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tearing It Up. We are here with an amazing guest. I'm super excited to have Lindsay. Again, you all know the spiel. I say this every time. I'm super excited, but I will never not be excited to have our guests. That's just the fact of the matter. You have to deal with. That's how I describe everybody. I'm always excited about this podcast. But today, I've been following this gal and her company for quite a while now, and I had the pleasure to meet her at Sea Otter in real life and actually do a little clinic with her. So I'm happy to bring her to you all and learn the backstory of Ladies All Ride. We have Lindsay Richter here. So if you guys are in the mountain bike world out there, or like rather pretty immersed in it, then you may have for sure heard about Ladies All Ride. If you haven't, then I'm excited to share the story with you. But Lindsay is a powerhouse and just has a great reputation in the mountain bike world and supporting women, and it's just an overall badass. And I can't wait to dive into how Ladies All Ride came about and what she's up to today with it. Lindsay, we like to start the podcast asking everybody where you are physically in the world as we record.
Nice. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm currently at my home in Bend, Oregon. Yeah. Here in the sunny Mount High
Awesome.
Desert.
I love Bend. I've really only been a couple of times. But and I haven't I did get to ride there a couple years ago. I was there for work, this whole kind of not a convention. I can't think of the word right now, but there was a little thing happening with this brand. And so they were getting us out and about while we were there. So we went on a bike ride with Cogwild. They shuttled us, and that was really fun. And my first and only experience biking there. It was also after I got attacked by a bunch of bees just days before. So my leg was all swollen and in pain. So it wasn't like the best
That
riding
sucks.
experience. Yeah, it was I had some things going on. It wasn't the best riding experience personally that way, but I just am dying to go back and actually ride. So, how long have you been in Bend?
Well, I grew up in Portland, so I've been coming to Bend my whole life. And I've had a house here since 2004. So going on 21 years now. Super
Oh,
lucky because,
amazing, amazing.
yeah, the housing market has exploded. I would not be able to afford to live in Bend anymore. So I'm very lucky to have a home here.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Bend is one of those locations similar to Tahoe that I feel like has seen a surge in people. I mean, I think Tahoe's been growing substantially, obviously, for a long time, but there's many places that in the last 5 years, especially, we all know since 2020, that had a really quick surge, I think, because a lot of people discovered or rediscovered the outdoors and how great it is to have easy access to them and all the activities. Because with Bend, you're close to amazing mountain bike trails, skiing, like everything outdoors. It's a hub.
It's totally a hub. You can pretty much ski, mountain bike, river raft, fly fish, rock climb all in the same day.
Oh my God. I
P
love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
and
Yeah.
not go far. It's pretty cool.
That's the thing, is not going far, not having to travel very far to do any of it. And I think about that all the time. Whenever anyone asks me if I'm ever gonna move back to Washington, it's like no, I don't have those plans right now. I like Tahoe. We're pretty settled here. But my answer is just always like, unless I wouldn't move anywhere else unless I could have the access I do out my door. And that's, I feel like a very privileged kind of statement, but I've experienced it, and now I just know what I want, and I do hope for anyone who enjoys it and wants that they can find that. And right now it is really hard for a lot of people to find that because so many of these places are so expensive to live that it's really not accessible to everyone. So it's sucks, and it's obviously part of a larger conversation, especially in this economy, but
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
well, let's get into some Ladies All Ride stuff, and before we dive into the backstory of Ladies All Ride, will you share with us and the listeners who may not be familiar with Ladies All Ride, like, what you're all about?
Yeah, totally. Ladies all ride. Well, it really means that ladies should all ride. However, I did name the company over 20 years ago. So we all should ride. We welcome all walks of life, all LGBTQ plus, non-binary. We're not just women per se, people who identify as women and non-binary folks. So we want to make sure that we have a very welcoming presence. We really are a movement to get more women on bikes. We started out as just I was in the bike industry in the early 2000s. I started racing in the 90s, and there weren't a lot of women involved in the sport. And throughout my travels for about a decade, I would be the only girl, I felt like, at a lot of events. And there were some pro racers, but just not a lot, and not a lot of women out on the trails. And so I started Ladies All Ride as first a way to just find friends to ride with. I was like, well, maybe if I start a movement that speaks to women and tells them they should all ride bikes, I'll find more friends to ride with. And then I got certified to coach after racing for a long time in around 2010. And that's when my eyes opened to the nuances of learning to mountain bike and how technical it can be. It's a sport that trial and error only goes so far when you get hurt enough times. And I was finding that a lot of people
Mhm.
who had started mountain biking had a fall and got scared and were intimidated by the sport. So learning to coach just opened up a whole new world for me. And I realized that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to create a series of events that are education based, that have nothing to do with racing, nameplates, not number plates. That's the only place I could find people to ride with, was going to races. And over time, it wasn't as welcoming to go there to compete. So my business partner Meredith and I created a series of educational events that really invites women into this sport in a safe and welcoming way, with the goals of teaching them how to ride. But more than that, helping them find community, helping them connect to themselves, helping them connect to the spirit of mountain biking, the lifestyle that comes with mountain biking. It's more than a sport. It's a lifestyle where I was just telling a friend this who's just wanting to get into it. She wants to buy a bike and she's like, wow, it's a really big investment. And I said, "Yeah, but the investment is in a lot of things. We have to balance our life out, and that balance, we try to find time to exercise, to get outside, to breathe fresh air, to find time with our friends, to be a part of a community, and mountain biking encompasses all of that. You can go out in the woods with your friends, have that social time while you're getting exercise. It helps you with your mental health, your physical health, and your connection with others. So she was like, gosh, when you put it that way, I used to go to the gym before work and then find time to go to happy hour to meet up with friends after work. And now she's seeing that, wait, I can just go get on my bike, meet up with my friends, and do it all. So that's
Yep.
really why I started this: find more friends and get more women into this sport.
I love it. And you can also have happy hour on your bike or
You
after,
totally
like
can
right
after the
there, like
ride,
the
before and
yeah,
after. Yeah.
totally.
Earned it.
Yep, earned it, and it's just so much better, like, cracking a beer or a whatever what thirsts your quenches your thirst after a ride, like, just chilling out, taking your shoes off, and, that's why, like, après,
Yes.
I, like, started from the ski culture, I feel like, but, I love to après anything, like, let's après yoga.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like that's the lifestyle that we're trying to live now, is finding that balance of doing the sport and celebrating afterwards, having that social
Mhm.
time to celebrate what we just did together. I lost my fitness after college. I was an athlete in high school, and I didn't realize that that was a big part of how I defined myself as an athlete, and
Mm.
that is how I found my friends naturally. And I went to college and didn't play a sport and joined a sorority and ended up getting kicked out of my sorority, which is a whole nother story over an après one day. Um, but it was a really big, like, you don't fit in here. And then being on a reality TV show and getting voted off, that's another big, you don't fit in here. And then because of the reality TV show, I moved to LA, and that was a really big, you don't fit in here. And so I went through a series of rejections throughout my 20s that just felt awful. Like, where do I fit in? And finding mountain biking gave me a place to feel like I do fit in here, and I wanted to create a space where everyone feels like they fit in here. So beyond getting out and being active with your friends, like you said, there's also this celebration of what we just did, talking about the ride, talking about your
Mhm.
crash, learning how to get better at something as a team, as a community. And there's a beauty in that. I'm not getting kicked out of mountain biking. I'm not getting voted off the island in mountain biking. And I don't want anyone else to enter into this sport feeling like they don't fit in here. And so we've created this series of events to make sure that everyone feels like they know they have a space to belong and that they do belong in this sport, in this lifestyle.
So important.
Yeah, it is, and I just resonate with so much of that because this feeling, I guess it kinda comes and goes. Sometimes I can't place it, and then I do, and it's in moments where it's exactly what you just said about not fitting in because I feel like yeah, I did, like, I had a good group of friends always. I played one sport from the time I, like or was involved in it from the time I was 4 through high school. We had, like, close friends and all this, and then I mean, I played other sports, but this one was the longest standing. Like, I had a community, but there were also a lot of times in my life that I still feel and I kinda placed this recently at this, like, retreat I did a couple of weeks ago that what the feeling is, like, feeling like you don't fit in because even though there's still something missing. It's like, yeah, I have this group of friends and, I love bike riding and doing this and that, but I still always feel like I'm a little too much of everything almost that it's like I don't quite always fit. I can fit in that box sometimes, but, like, I'm not there all the time, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think it's just, yeah, these realizations coming that we don't always have to fit into one thing, right? But then it is hard to find the people or the things that where you fit all the boxes.
And I think that's the beauty with a lot of these outdoor adventure sports is it really doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, what color your skin is, what your background is, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. We're connected by the activity. We're connected by the thing that we're sharing. And I think that that allows us to show up as our authentic selves because we're sharing this movement together. We're outdoors, we're moving, we're enjoying nature, we're talking about the things that are happening right here, right now. We're in the present moment. And I feel like it's just a lot more of an accepting community when you're sharing this common bond like bikes or any other outdoor sports, climbing, river rafting, running. There's just this commonality that we can show up as our authentic selves. We can be too much or not enough. I just feel like you're never not enough, and that's a big part of these sports is that they fuel you to try hard and to want to be better, and it's also okay to not be good. Like, I feel like the boxes that we sort of grew up thinking we needed to fit into were we needed to be good at things. We are women, so there's a perfectionism kind of looms over us, and you can't be perfect in these sports, especially mountain biking. It's a sport you're never going to perfect. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be a hard line. There's probably always going to be some kind of crashing. And that's the beauty of it is it doesn't matter what our personality is. We're still sharing this common bond over bikes that I don't know. It's hard to break.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, and you're right with the outdoor sports, specifically, this, like you're bonding on something on, like, a deeper level, and I think that's just being outdoors rather than when you are playing a team sport and it's like a lot of there's a lot of pressure, I feel like, in team sports to be really specific in that sport and not a lot of the other things of life coming into play, but I feel like in outdoor sports, there's just a often you do more than one too, whether it's like running or hiking or just caring about the outdoors. You just connect on other levels than I think that you can with traditional sports. I mean, I think both are super important, and there's a place for them all, and wherever you thrive, then just great. But I do think that everyone should, have an experience with a team sport and also an outdoor sport. But also, obviously, that's not everyone's case. But I'm curious, you said you were an athlete leading up to college, and I'd love to hear a little bit about like how those younger years were, like how your athletics formed and what got you going, and then how that transition to college and not doing that and back into biking, like how you found biking, because I also, again, can resonate there where I was an athlete and then I didn't play sports in college. And it was like feeling like I didn't have a sense of purpose in a way of like, I'm not contributing to like anything else. And this feels so, it felt very empty. I did start playing on like, recreational soccer teams, co-ed leagues and stuff like that. But until I found outdoor sports again, there was definitely a void.
Yeah, I think that's very common. In school when we're younger, if you had parents that put you into sports and you found your path through sports, it was right there in front of you. You had these team sports, these school sports that you could sign up for and join. But something like mountain biking, you now there's NICA and there's mountain biking leagues, but back when I was growing up, I mean, I graduated high school in 92, I just turned 50. Um, that was the time when team sports were everything. And that was easy. And so I played all the sports: soccer, basketball. I excelled at track and cross country. I could have gone to the University of Arizona on a track scholarship. But my whole family was in the Greek system. And I think you're very influenced by those closest to you. And my parents kind of like, I don't know, drilled into me that being social and finding friends and of course studying was a big deal. And I felt like sports was going to be too much pressure. College sports felt like too much pressure. And I had a lot of pressure growing up playing sports because I was at the top of my game back then. So when I did enter into college and I chose not to play sports, like you said, that identity kind of faded. I really didn't know who I was. And so I tried to find my people through the sorority, but there was a lot of partying and drinking, and I just sort of conformed. And I mean, I grew up a horse girl too. I was a horse nerd. I loved horses, and I wore jeans and horse t-shirts. I didn't know how to dress. And I went to the University of Arizona where it was there was a lot of Scottsdale people. There were women in my sorority who showed up with convertible Saabs that had phones in them, like phones that you could like hang up. That was a big deal in the 90s. And I came to school with a bike. So right away, I didn't feel like I fit in, let alone trying to conform and party, and I didn't know how to eat healthy, and I lost my fitness. But not only did I lose my fitness, I lost my body. I went to college a fit athlete, and by graduation, I wasn't healthy, and I would look in the mirror and feel shame. And that was again in the 90s. I went right into the working world. I got a great job in advertising, and I would go to the gym, and staring at yourself in the mirror and not really, step aerobics was a thing. And so I tried step aerobics, and you're like looking at yourself in the mirror, and it just wasn't very inspiring. So I learned about spin class. Spin class was a new thing. And I thought, well, I like bikes, so I'll go to the spin class at lunch. And through that is really where I found mountain biking. I went to spin class and I thought, well, this is working. I'm starting to get my fitness back, but I'm also on a bike going nowhere. So I just decided one day I'm going to try racing. I'm going to go race mountain bikes, and that will give me a reason to get off my ass, get to the gym, go to these spin classes, and then have a goal and go race on the weekend so that I would get in shape for racing. And I was one of the only women in my category around Oregon, and I would be chasing after the boys. And I started finding myself again. I started finding this purpose, this sense of like, after work, I'm going to go out, I'm going to ride my bike, and I'm going to race on the weekends. And that is when I ended up getting on Survivor. The TV show Survivor was brand new. I got laid off from my advertising job because the dot-com boom was happening in the early 2000s, and then it had a crash. So all of our clients were dot-commers, and we lost a lot of clients, and we got laid off. And a friend in the office next to me slapped the application for Survivor on my desk, and he was like, well, you mountain bike race, you do this crazy sport, you come into the office on Mondays all like limping and bloody knees and all proud of yourself. This is like a sporting thing that they do on TV. And I didn't know anything about it, so we had to go rent the DVD from Blockbuster to see what the show was all about. Because
Throwback.
right, there wasn't, I even think it was probably a VHS tape, to be honest with you. And we rented the show from Blockbuster, and I watched it and was like, okay, I think I can do these challenges. And so I did a video of myself, and I had to put two VCRs together and push play, record, and totally made this like VHS tape of me riding my mountain bike and being
I
crazy.
love
And
it.
ended up on Survivor. And it was really mountain biking, being a mountain biker, because that was kind of new in the early 2000s that got me on the TV show. And then when I moved to LA to audition, and we were on David Letterman, Howard Stern, I was in an Eminem
Wow.
music video. Like we walked the
Shut
red
up.
carpet. Yeah, the song Without Me. It's so
Oh
without
my
me. This
gosh.
looks like a job for me. And it's a proud moment. I'm standing on a log of shit in the toilet. So there's that. Yeah,
We're gonna have to
so
get footage of that for
oh,
sure.
yeah. Oh,
She
it's
just
great.
posted
Everything I
it.
did on TV was
Oh, sick. I love it.
everything I did on TV was like, borderline humiliating. And it was a great experience, but there was also like a little bit of shame behind it. And I got publicly ridiculed and ripped on. And the Eminem video was probably my highlight, but then we didn't know we were on a log of shit. We were just on a log with a green screen behind us. And then when the video aired, I was like, oh, the camera's panning into the toilet. Oh, that's me on the log of shit. That's awesome. So I went I went through a pretty big
Where's the
spiral.
consent?
Yeah, right. No one told me it was a log of poo.
Yeah.
Um, and I going to auditions and getting, I wasn't an actor. I didn't train for this. And so being told you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, like they tell it like it is. And it was kind of a shameful place. And I was mid 20s at the time, just trying to find myself. And I would go race my mountain bike on the weekends outside of LA. And I went to the Sea Otter Classic, was my first big race in 2002. And then I went to Big Bear, and that was my second big race. And I ended up meeting and marrying a pro downhill racer within the year. He was fun and exciting, and he kind of showed me the ropes of mountain biking. And I got my foot in the door managing his career, and we ended up starting the All Ride Tour because he didn't want to be known as just a pro racer. He wanted to be more of an ambassador, and that really didn't exist yet. So together we kind of invented what an ambassador looks like. And I was the token woman at a lot of photo shoots and events. And I grabbed onto that, and I learned about sponsorship, and we sponsored a kids team and brought kids around the country with us. And I learned where sponsors put their dollars. I learned how to give a return
Mhm.
on investment. And throughout this whole time, I was like, does anybody notice that none of you are speaking to women? None of you are actually giving women a platform to get a job in this industry. You're not paying them the same to race. Each team had like one or two women amongst 10 men. And I just really was observing what was going on in the industry and how few women were involved in it as a whole. It was a very male dominated sport. And so that's kind of where how I got into Ladies All Ride was I went from the high school athlete to not an athlete to finding my body again, my fitness again, and my community again. And I thought there's got to be more people out there like me who've found that they're lost along the way. And I
Yeah.
did also learn that, you hear the phrase a lot, especially after college, like, I feel lost. I'm trying to find myself. And mountain biking and the path that I went down to learn about mountain biking, it taught me a lot about myself. And it taught me that you don't necessarily find yourself, you create yourself. And that opened up a whole new world to me of like, I can be whoever I want. I can be this strong, independent woman. And my marriage was unhealthy. I was scared to leave. We started All Ride together. And I hit a point where Ladies All Ride I became so passionate about women discovering how to create themselves that I wanted to do it on my own. And so I ended up going through a gnarly divorce after 15 years of marriage, and
Wow.
pulling that van and trailer across the country by myself so that I could prove that I can do this alone. I can run these women's events. I found a business partner, Meredith, and she joined forces with me, and we are a company of all women. And once I found that I could be the strong, independent, kind, easy to work with, good human that I wanted to be, I surround myself with those kinds of people. And not only do we pride ourselves on this community that we've built with participants feeling like they have a place to belong, but between us and all of our coaches working with women and lifting each other up truly does create the strongest environment I've ever been a part of. And it's been a
Mhm.
real blessing to be on this path from rejection to creating acceptance in myself and within this community.
That's amazing. That's a wild ride, like,
Yeah,
just
I've
so
lived a lot of
many
lives.
yeah, so many different twists and turns and different versions of yourself that I think a lot of us go through in different stages of our lives, but obviously it might not feel as extreme, but it's all relative, right? And your own experience is all you have, but, when you brought up, kind of like getting lost and a lot of that happens or feeling lost rather, a lot of us feel that around that college age because, we're taught
Yes.
follow this
Yes.
path, right? We do this, and then after college and you're kind of like really out there like on your own, it's like, okay, what do you do now? Now the decisions are all your own. The world has given you everything it's supposed to. You had your education and now go make the choices and find the job and whatever. But we know that's not the case for everybody, and I just feel like that's kind of the phase 1 of your first experience, like, kind of feeling lost. I think a lot of us can go through those stages at many other times, like, after college with your LA experience or maybe even sometimes after a divorce, I don't know. When you after your
Mhm.
divorce and you're going all in on Ladies All Ride, did you feel, like, pretty solid there, or were you having those questions of, like, a little bit of something missing because you didn't have that partner anymore?
Yeah, I think that that's a big reason why people stay in relationships that are unhealthy is fear, and I
Mhm,
think that's a big part of me discovering that I could create myself was mountain biking taught me to work through my fears. Mountain biking taught me to think only and look only in the positive. Only look at the line you want to ride, only think
mm,
about the moves you want to make. You can change your thoughts into the positive, and yeah, there was a lot of fear there. There was a lot of loneliness. There was a lot of I think a lot of people might go through not wanting to leave a relationship because they're worried they've done something wrong or they're unlovable or they've messed up, and how can anyone love damaged goods that have been married and now have the big D for divorce on their head. And I definitely went through all that, but I've also learned over time, being 50 now, I would love my skin back, but I wouldn't change where my brain is at because the
mhm,
experiences are what shape us. And
mhm,
Yes.
it's like the bad times and the crashes on the bike are what teach us how not to crash, or they teach us to crash
Mhm.
better. They
Mhm.
teach us to fail better and to be okay with failure, because failure is what teaches us. If everything
mhm,
went perfectly every time, yeah, I think we wouldn't learn much. It would too easy isn't a path for learning. And I think that that is
mhm,
No.
advice I have for the younger generation is embrace failure. We don't do a lot of things that we maybe want to do because of fear, but fear is just a state of mind. Fear is something that we've created in our heads. And the actual fear that we have. A lot of, like, for instance, when a woman is scared to ride down a rock garden or to do a move. I had a woman in a camp recently that was like, I'm really scared to lean to the inside up an uphill corner. And I will ask them, what exactly are you afraid of happening? Like, break it down. What exactly, like, I get there's fear there, but tell
Mhm.
me what you don't want to have happen. And the uphill climbing thing, she was like, I don't know. I guess I would just step off. Downhill, yeah, I don't want to go over the bars. I don't want to hit my face. I don't want to break something. Those are legit fears. Now go through the process
For
of what
sure.
do I need to do so that doesn't happen? And that is my biggest message with mountain biking is you don't know until you try. But if you think it through and you think about what you're actually afraid of, then you break down the steps that you need to take so that doesn't happen. And for me, it was not being lovable, not finding a life partner again, and we'll break that down. Like, you don't know what the future holds, and if you put that on yourself, then you won't put yourself out there. But if you jump into the fear zone of putting yourself out there and you manifest what you want, and I did that. I manifested. I used to journal exactly what kind of a partner I wanted, and he
Yes.
he turned up. He's pretty much
Mhm.
exactly what I manifested, kind and fun and gentle and all the things that a manly man. And
Yep.
I've seen other people do the same, but I've also seen the opposite. When you're so scared on a bike, and what I love about mountain biking is it really does illuminate your true colors. I see a lot of emotional behavior come out in my students that I know they carry into their life. Like, are you so
Yes.
afraid that you just can't try the thing? You stop every time you get started? Or do you talk to yourself and work through the fear and do the thing that you're scared of? And I find that mountain biking really helps people see the symmetry to life. That if you can break through that fear and you can ride that section and then you do it successfully, even if you crash a few times, but then you do it successfully, it just shows you that you are capable of more than you think, and that we shouldn't put these limiting beliefs on ourselves because they're not true. And
Mhm.
if they are true,
Yes.
we can still ride another trail, take another path, try again.
Yes. Wise words. Wise, wise, wise words through
That's
and
what
through.
that's what 50 will get you.
Oh, can't wait. I really can't
Yeah,
wait.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like it just can relate to so many aspects of life. I loved what you said about breaking it down, like, why are you afraid? And again,
Yes.
I think that could just relate into
Specifics.
so many different life aspects. A lot of our audience and ourselves are in this stage of life where back when we were in school, in high school, early aughts and 90s and stuff, where it was like, by now you should be settled, right? You've got everything figured out. You're not lost because this is just it. This is just life now. You're raising kids um and that's it. That's your purpose, and whatever, it doesn't matter if you have your job, you work your job for 40 years and then you retire, whatever. And it's like that is not the norm anymore. It's not the norm for a lot of women aren't having kids until later in life, their later 30s. And so it's just we are at another, I think, more so coming again to that, like, maybe second phase of being lost or having to make choices and changes and realizing, coming to terms with, like, well, yeah, why did I follow this particular path? And I think a lot of people out there listening may be at that point where they wanna make a change and a pivot, but again, that fear might hold them back. So I think that's a good challenge for anyone out there, not even a challenge, but exercise, I guess. If there's something in your life that you feel like you need that needs a change, but you're not actively doing it, like, why? What are the fears? What are the exact fears holding you back? Because sometimes when you look those things in the face, you realize how much power they actually don't have over you. Like, maybe they're really not even, yeah, they shouldn't exist. You're like, "Oh, wait, yeah, why am I afraid of that? There's no reason to be scared of that." Just it's like looking at a feature, right? You see something from one side, you're like, "Oh, that's a big rollover, I'm scared of it." Well, walk it. Take a little peek, and obviously we can't look into our future, but we can take the steps. We can take some steps and see what could be on the other side, or what's the worst that could happen, right?
Exactly, and I think that to your point of this new generation, I got married because I mean, he was great and I was having fun, but I was also afraid to turn 30 unmarried. That was a big thing
Mm,
for me. All my friends got married in their 20s, they were having kids. We did feel like I think that my generation felt like you do have to follow this plan and you're gonna be judged if you're not married and having kids. And one of the first things I say in my camps when I welcome everybody is, "There's no comparison here. Don't compare yourselves to others." Brené Brown said it best, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And if we're comparing ourselves to
God,
others,
she's so good.
right? Sizing each other up, thinking I'm not as good as that person, or that person has the sweet bike and I have an old bike. And it's the same with life. Oh, that person has a husband and a family and I'm behind. I felt like I was behind.
Hate that.
And that's no way to live. We are our own person. We are our own people. We can live however we want. We can, choose. This is a day and age where if you want to change your gender identity and marry a woman, marry a man, don't get married, don't have kids, like we have choices and we can do what feels best for us. And
Yes.
I think that that's the path I hope this new generation sees, is that you can create the life that you want, not only the person you want to be, but the life that you want. And I don't want human children. I'm super stoked to have dog children, fur babies.
Mhm.
And my friends that do have kids, they love it. It's awesome, but it also looks very hard and it's a life choice. And I don't judge you for having kids. I don't judge you for not having kids, but I hope this generation coming up makes the choices that are right for them, despite what their
Mhm,
parents did or what they think is right. We have the choice
Mhm.
to walk this path. And I think finding the balance of an active lifestyle and getting outside and making sure we're taking care of ourselves. I did grow up in a generation of hearing the word selfish a lot. Like it's selfish to take care of yourself. But why is it selfish? I come first. I
Yes.
have to feel good and feel strong. And the things I can control are what I put in my body, how strong I make my body, how much I get outside, how much fresh air I get. There's a lot of things we can't control in this world, but there's a lot of things we can. And I can
Mhm.
control how much I ride my bike. I can control my attitude. And so I hope this new generation sees that you can find the job of your dreams. You can get outside and do these sports. You can save money to buy a bike instead of jumping into marriage and having a bunch of kids. You can make the choice to live the life that feels good for you and not worry about what anyone else thinks. And that's a big part of our camps, is
Yeah.
learning to ride a mountain bike in a vulnerable setting where you might be with a bunch of people you don't know. And we address that. We say it's vulnerable for us too. We're coaching you. We fall. We make mistakes. We fail. I don't always make the climb I'm trying to demonstrate for you. Sometimes my wheel washes out and I'm going to crash in front of you. And that's what we're here for. We're here to celebrate the ups and the downs and the all arounds, because that's life. And if we try to
Mhm.
avoid failure and avoid getting hurt or making a mistake, that's just not realistic.
No.
absolutely. I mean, I can't stop nodding along with everything you're saying. It just hits so
Yeah.
much, and just being able to create, like I said, to create the life that you want. I do hope that everyone realizes that they can do that, and I think where a lot of people run into problems with that train of thought is, like, the pressure they have from their families. And I was having a conversation with one of my really good friends when I was back in Washington a few weeks ago, because he's married now, and our other best friend was having a baby, like, had a baby literally, like, that day, or they were in the hospital about to. And so, we're talking about, like, what his next steps are, what mine are. And, it came up, he's like, I could really go either way, but it's like, it seems like in this world today, a lot of people who, like, should have kids aren't, because they're putting themselves first. And and I think what he meant by that and what I took from it is that we are, like I said, putting that oxygen mask on first, taking care of yourself, and not having kids to expect a certain life out of them. And I think Amber, you do a really great job with Quincy and letting him be his own person. And he's
Thanks,
only
babe.
8, but I think that is, like, such a I think our generation as parents is just overall getting better at that. I think that
Mhm.
maybe that generational trauma is breaking and the societal norms are shifting there, but
Yes.
I have some friends whose parents, put a lot of pressure on them to, like, do this, 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 and this, and I just was so lucky to not have that, and I couldn't imagine having it, and it's also, like, I can't imagine putting that on a child either, so I think a lot of people really get stuck in living up to someone else's expectations, and it can be really hard to break that pattern, but I think that that's why things like Ladies All Ride exist and are like, while you create them to show people of all walks of life, like you said, in ages, that you can break these patterns. You can absolutely change your life at any age, and I know that Ladies All Ride is open to like, all ages and everybody. Do you ever do, like, specific camps for certain age groups or people, or is it all just everyone is kind of all welcome and it's more based off, like,
Oh,
experience, like beginner
everyone's
or
welcome.
intermediate? Yeah.
Everyone's welcome. We have coaches who are all ages. I mean, my top coach that teaches all the jumps and the drops is 54. We get
Yes.
50-year-olds,
Heck
60-year-olds,
yeah.
7-year-olds. Yeah, it's rad. 20-year-olds,
Oh, I
30-year-olds.
love it.
We get all ages, but we're not spring chickens anymore, and that's
Mhm.
what I love so much about this sport is I think we do get a lot of middle-aged women who are raising a family, and a lot of them have realized, "Holy shit, I've been spending so much time raising my kids, thinking of others, being selfless, taking care of these
Mhm.
little humans, helping them develop into this world, that I forgot to take care of myself." And what
Yep.
kind of an example am I if I'm not showing them that I have to come first for me so that I can be my best self and show up for them? And that is where the magic in parenting lies, I think, in this new generation is that these parents, and you're a parent, are learning that I need to be an example to you. I grew up with a mom who did everything for me, and bless her heart,
Yep.
she just passed of Alzheimer's, but bless her heart,
Mm.
she really just wanted to be the best mom she could be, and so she did everything for us, but when I went to college and I didn't know how to cook or do my own laundry or really take care of myself at all, I
Yep.
felt resentment, and it wasn't until I got married that I realized, "Holy shit, I don't know how to do anything. Nobody taught me how to do anything," and I felt
Mhm.
resentment towards her for a little while, and I had to go through my own healing process of forgiving that that was the best that she knew how to do, but also, I have a lot of friends with kids, and I can't give you advice from a parent perspective, but I can give you advice from a child's perspective, and I wish I learned how to do more things on my own. I wish I learned how to take care of myself. I wish that I had the ability to talk about my emotions and have an open space where it
Mhm.
was okay to feel the way I was feeling and have someone help me understand what I was going through rather than scold me for behaviors that they didn't understand. And I think that's a lot of what our camps do for women is they learn about themselves. They start opening their eyes to like, "Oh, wow, I'm a fear-based person. I hope I'm not putting that on my kid," or, "Wow, I'm a perfectionist, and if I don't get it right every time, I'm gonna throw a temper tantrum." I hope I'm not putting that on my kids. Like, I see a lot of women open their eyes to their own behaviors because the bike shows them how they act in
Yep.
certain situations. And then I think that they take these newfound skills and this newfound understanding of themselves back to their kids, and they help their kids
Totally.
understand their behaviors, and that it's okay to feel things. It's okay to have a temper tantrum, but let's break it down and understand why. Because I don't feel good enough, because I'm putting pressure on myself, because I want to be perfect. And it's really creating this other new generation of complete humans who are learning how to take care of themselves, learning how to put their own oxygen masks on, but also learning how to help their friends. And it starts with us. It starts with the older people being an
Yes.
example of how to do all this and how to be okay with who we are. And that's important.
Mhm. Crucial.
Yeah, that's huge. Being okay with who you are, I think, is probably one of the life lessons that a lot of people don't get to, or it, comes on later in life because we are just always chasing like trying to fit in, right? So you're
Mhm.
not being true to that self, and it can be hard to be in. Again, I do see some shifts in the younger generation, but I think it will always be there. I think it's human nature to try to fit in because again, we were meant to be with others. We didn't survive if we were on our own. So there's a certain level, I think, of the evolutional chain that makes us have that desire to fit in. But
Mhm.
we just have to know, I guess, and trust that we just have to find our group, find our tribe, and it can take a lot of time because you don't have a lot of choice when you're young, right? Where you're going to school, where you live, and so it isn't usually until your 20s that you can start to really experience that and learn what else is out there and find your people. But you also mentioned how in the beginning, like, if you are feeling a certain way, other people have to, right? And that's what I say about the podcast all the time and the stories we share. Like, if I want to hear from this person, if I want to hear how they did this or where it came from, someone else does too. It is pretty rare, I'm sure, that someone is the only one in the entire world experiencing something. So if you like, just know that someone else out there is thinking the same thing, feeling the same way, so you can find your people. But yeah, it can be hard, but it's amazing to have things like Ladies All Ride to be able to go and connect, and even if it's just to reconnect with yourself and maybe uncover some of these things, what you do want, how do you what place do you work from? Is it fear? Is it perfectionism? And these are things that I don't think when you see scrolling by and all of a sudden you see a Ladies All Ride camp that you're probably not thinking about these things, right? You're like, "Cool, I wanna learn how to mountain bike," or something, but they can be so, so, so much more. That's why I love sharing them and talking about them, and just the fact that you created this space because said all of this can relate to other aspects in life. So it's like you don't have to become the best biker, right? But you can truly
Mhm.
learn something about yourself and or relearn things about yourself, like especially with women and older in life who maybe were the athlete or lost a part of their identity. Like, I need to find it again. Maybe it's just their fitness, or maybe they didn't used to operate from a place of fear and now they do, because that's what I feel that and a lot of people say that happens when they become moms. Amber, I think maybe you could speak to that of how
1,000%.
there's a lot more fear that you think about now because you more things running through your head. You got a human to take care of. You can't just go huck
Yep.
yourself off something without a thought. But other reasons of just being an adult, you're like, well, things hurt a lot more.
Mhm.
Insurance, cost of
Insurance,
things.
yeah. Cost of your
So
bike.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, I can't afford to crash. I can't replace that on my bike, and then I'm not gonna be able to bike. So, lots of reasons stop us, but I think that, yeah, really kind of figuring out what those are to remove that block is important.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
a lot of barriers for people to get into a sport like mountain biking. Bikes are expensive these days. Gear is expensive. Luckily, you can just buy a bunch of stuff and then you have it. It stays
Mhm.
good for a long time if you get quality stuff. But there are a lot of barriers. Getting hurt is one of them. People don't have time to get hurt, and
Yeah.
I always say it's not the average human doesn't fall down very often. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
my dude crashed the other day and hurt himself and he was bleeding all over the place. And I said, wow, it's pretty unusual for one of us to not be bleeding in some way. And that's not normal. The normal person isn't like all scabbed up and boogered up, but it's also part of it. And I think it's also what helps strengthen our resolve and teach us how to fall down and teach us how to deal with hardship. And at a company like Ladies All Ride, we're trying to help remove those barriers by helping you get into it in a safer way so that you can learn to progress at a sport like mountain biking in a way that feels good to you. Again, you don't compare yourselves to others. You don't need to be hitting big hits and riding like Red Bull Rampage stuff. You can make mountain biking what you want out of it. And if it's just fitness, then you
Yes.
ride trails that are very pedally, that don't have a lot of technical on them. You don't ride big lines and big exposure. That's also the beauty with mountain biking, and the evolution of it is more trails are being
Yes.
built for all levels of riders. So you can choose how big or how chill you want to be at a sport like this. And that's what we're trying to help people see, is that you can buy a used bike, you can ride trails that feel good to you, but much like life, giving into the process of mountain biking, the little progressions, not perfection. Perfection, it shouldn't even be a word. It's about
Mhm.
progress, and we have to make progress in life, and the bike can really help us give into that process of the little things, the little progressions that add up to the big ones. I always say at the beginning of my camps, you have to start with a strong foundation. And a strong foundation starts with practicing standing on your level pedals and practicing moving your body around over the bike. And those little skills that we practice that may seem mundane and small, those add up to the big maneuvers. You have to have 10 skills under your belt to do a drop or to do a jump or to do a corner. And that's a lot
Mhm.
like life. So the beauty of a
Yes.
sport like mountain biking is that you learn to celebrate those little progressions, and that's how it should be in life too. You as a mom, you celebrate the little things when your kid is little and they learn to walk and they learn to
Yeah.
talk and they say a word. You celebrate all those. So why aren't we doing that with ourselves? Why do we have these
Mhm.
big expectations,
Ooh,
right? Where we're trying to get to
love
here,
that.
but we got to celebrate the little steps that it takes to get to here. And when you celebrate the little steps, it all feels good. You don't have to get to
Mhm.
that big drop. If the little things make you feel good, you'll be more satisfied with the progress versus the result.
Hmm.
So true.
Just mic
Yeah.
dropping over here all day, Lindsay.
Yeah. Boom, baby. Do you do this
Yeah.
for a living or like what?
No, they're just so many great reminders. I think recently we did talk about trying to celebrate those little wins more often, kind of looking back at I know people who are have much better habits of this, but whether it's daily or weekly or figure out a cadence that like works for you of thinking back, like what were the wins? I'm in a leadership program and I have a mentor and we meet every couple weeks and we've started it where we start the session off with your rosebud and thorn and that's been a great way for me to think about like yeah wait what was the good thing in the last couple weeks and it's not always something major because life is just going so fast and I'm like oh sometimes I do have to really think about it like wait and it might be yeah a little thing but it's those matter. Those little things,
They
like you said,
do,
build up because you
day to
said,
day.
you need 10 skills to do this drop or corner, and it's like those little things really take us to somewhere else, and I think a lot of times we get complacent and forget about those things, and so it's nice to kinda come back and restart and actually focus on those foundational movements and pieces of life because we can lose focus from them, and then things get messy, we're here, we're like, "Why is this hard suddenly? It didn't used to be." And it's like, "Okay, reset." So come back to the beginnings, the basics, the foundations, it's something I come back to in, like, personal training a lot. It's like, look, you never and wrestling, it's like, these are never gonna go away. You can never stop freshening up your skills of your foundations and basics in whatever it is in
Mhm.
life because they are the the stabilizer, the ground floor, the thing you need to keep everything from falling.
Totally. Yep. I love it.
Well, Lindsay, this has just been an amazing conversation. Like I said, so many amazing nuggets and just like I feel like I could pull so many quotes out of here that was like, "Oh,
True.
uh-huh, yep, got that one."
Yep.
But tell us a little bit about what's happening with Ladies All Ride right now, what's current, where people can find you, get in on camps, or follow along. I absolutely love your Teachable Tuesdays and Friday Fails because, like I said, as coaches, everything like that, like, you still no matter how good you are, you're gonna fall, you're gonna fail from time to time, and it's okay. So I love seeing that you're like, "Yeah, look, I had to go back and do this 3 times."
For sure. I'm trying to humanize mountain biking. I'm trying to humanize life. I'm trying to show that I work really hard at being a good mountain biker, and it's really fun to be good at something. But it's taken me a very long
Mhm.
time. I didn't just pop up good at something. It's taken a lot of
Mhm.
work, and so that's really what we're about, and that's what, Ladies All Ride on social media, that's where you can find us, ladiesallride.com. I want to show the human side of this. I want to show progress, not perfection. I want to show failure because it's celebrated at our camps. It's welcomed. I want to show support, that we have a community that's here to support you and meet you wherever you're at in your journey. And whether you're brand new to mountain biking and or brand new to even biking, or you've been riding for a long time and maybe have developed some bad habits, or you just want to come meet the community that we've fostered and be a part of something and feel, how often do we get to be cheered on? How often do you ride through a section of trail where six other women are going, "You got this, you got this." Like,
Mhm.
there's power in that, you know? Like I said, my I have a
So
childhood
much.
friend who just joined our camp, and she's like, "I have not been cheered on in decades." Like, we're here to
That's
cheer
real.
you on, and we're also here to show you an example of failing and actually being okay with it. And, you hear a
Mhm.
lot like,
Yes.
don't set limits, break through your limiting your self-beliefs. And I'm a believer in limits too. Like, you can have limits. I'm
Mhm.
as I'm moving into my 50s, I don't wanna get hurt. I'm already hurt. There's lots of things that hurt. And, I'm not
Yes.
gonna hit that huge gap drop anymore. I don't need to ride the gnarliest lines. After a day of, like, burly technical riding, my favorite kinda riding, I feel it. And we're
Mhm.
also here to teach you that it's okay to shift and change and to say, "I used to do that, and I don't do that anymore," and that's okay. I
Yes.
I find for women, that's really hard to,
Mhm.
even, like, losing our looks and our skin and our elasticity, it's like, I used to be pretty, but, like, and that's just life. We're all gonna go through it. I
Yep.
mean, my boyfriend's always like, "You're not special. We're all aging." And
Yep.
and we're here to celebrate that, to help you feel like it's normal. And what is normal? Like, it's normal to feel the way we feel, and let's celebrate it, and let's be honest about perimenopause and hormone changes and the
Boom.
shit that really we all got to go through, that feels very lonely when you're behind closed doors and you get injured and you're healing an injury, or when you have perimenopause
Phew.
symptoms that nobody's talked about. Like, we talk about all that at our camps. We're not just
Yes.
a mountain bike skills camp. We're a community that uses mountain biking as our tool for growth and change and evolution, but also to be real, because we have to be real as mountain bikers, or we're going to get hurt. And so it
Yes.
forces you to come out of this comfort zone and be real with where you're at in life and where you're at on the bike. And that's what we're about. So we still have some camp spots left in our downhill camps. I think those are some of my favorite camps, because a lot of people are like, downhill, ooh, I don't need to get on a chairlift and ride gnarly downhill trails. And that's not what it's about. The downhill camps are so fun because there's downhill on a lot of mountain bike trails. And when you come to
Yep.
one of our downhill camps, we have Whitefish and we have Grand Targhee still have some spots
Mm.
available. You get to ride a chairlift up and then repeat trails. So you want to get better at cornering, you come to a downhill camp because you get to rail corners all day. You want to learn a little
Mhm.
jumping, or you just want to learn how to handle a jump so that you don't feel like you're going to get flung off your bike, whether you want to jump or not. There's jumps on trails these days. So learning how to handle a jump, learning how to go off a drop, learning how to catch a little air, or just learning how to handle your bike in steeps and braking and body position. The downhill camps are really fun. So we still have two downhill camps coming up, Whitefish and Grand Targhee. We're going to Switzerland. That's already full. That filled up a long time ago. That's going to be a retreat, which is a little different than a camp. It's a little longer, a little more intimate. We all stay together. We eat together. We ride sweet trails in Switzerland. And then we have Bentonville, and then a new camp this year at Dolores, Colorado, right outside of Durango, at a place called the Zuma
Oh
Bike
my
Ranch.
god.
Yeah, it's going to be cool because I
That's
also have a home
amazing.
in Silverton, Colorado. So Colorado is my kind of my winter home, and I love it there. But it's been really hard to find a camp there because everything's like 12,000 feet, and you got to climb straight up. But we found this place in
Woof.
Dolores outside of Durango called Zuma Bike Ranch that has skills features everywhere. We get to ride Phil's World, which has the north side has a bunch of techie trails. The south side is pretty smooth for newer riders. So we accommodate all levels and all humans, and we just want to help make the world a better place using bikes as our tool.
Ugh, I love that so much, and I love that you're doing a camp in Dolores because I don't really have the connection anymore, but I dated a guy who had his family had a house in Dolores, so I spent some time in Dolores,
Oh,
and
that's
anytime
funny.
I'm talking about I the other day I just brought it up, I was like, "Oh my god," and I had them a brain fart for a minute, I'm like and I said it, of course, the person didn't know because sometimes I think it people know it like Durango, I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, no, not Durango, it's the one no one knows about,
Yeah,
Dolores."
it's like 40 minutes from Durango, and it's a great little corner of Southwest Colorado, and it feeds
Ugh,
it's close to Moab, it's close to New Mexico, it's a great little corner of the
Mm,
world, so I'm excited to go
I
there.
loved my time there, and that feels like an amazing spot for a camp,
Yeah.
and
Smaller town too, you know? All these mountain towns I moved to Bend because I grew up in Portland, and Bend was a small town, and Bend is no longer
yep.
a small town. I get to winter in Silverton, which is a very small town, but I can't really coach mountain biking there because people are gonna die. They come there and we
yeah.
the house my house is at 9,000 feet, and if you're not acclimated, you're gonna be like, "Now you want me to
Yep.
lift my wheel over that log?" You
Yeah.
know? It's like, it's hard. So I'm glad I found a place in Colorado that's not gonna crush people's souls right out of the
Yes.
gate.
Yeah,
That helps.
that's
Yeah, it helps.
awesome.
Yeah.
I also do you know Taylor Ann from Ride Force?
No.
Oh,
Sounds
okay.
familiar, though.
Um, yeah, I feel like I'm not sure if I know she rides Targi, and I thought that maybe she went to a camp you did there, a number or some time ago, but I don't know for
Maybe.
sure if it was a Ladies All Ride thing she did there, but you talking about cornering because yeah, she's a downhill gal, and I just remember her, something about a camp in Targi came up, and I was like, "I wonder if that was Ladies All Ride and if she's connected with Lindsay," but she makes custom jerseys, that's what ri
Oh,
her company Ride
awesome.
Force is. Yeah.
Really
Awesome.
Yeah.
nice jerseys.
Yeah.
That's awesome, and I
Well,
love seeing all these people doing their own thing and making it happen, following their dreams,
Yes.
giving it a try, like, it's great.
yeah. Like you said,
Not
I mean,
accepting the straight lines that have been projected before us, making their own paths.
yeah,
And you
and it's like, what
can.
else do you have to lose? I mean, obviously, there's sometimes people have more to risk than others, but when you look at the
Yeah,
grand scheme and it's about your happiness and, building the life you want, creating your life, creating your own opportunities, it's like I said this a while ago, opportunities aren't just given, like you go create your own opportunities, and we need to remember that it's not like, oh, I got this opportunity. Like, think about how many opportunities you fucking made for yourself, not that you just got, you weren't just
absolutely.
given, like you went out and made your opportunities by pursuing whatever it is that you were pursuing. That not often do they drop from the sky in your lap, like you did something to make them happen, so I think we
You
need
took
to
a
remember that
risk, you took
too.
a leap.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I
Yeah.
love full circle. The name of your podcast is so great. It reigns true for what we're talking about, freaking tearing it up, making shit
Absolutely, and
happen.
Yes.
see where you're going, like, saying all these things, I was like, "Yeah, Lindsay, this is exactly why you're here, this is exactly what we're all about too." It's like, no, go, show the real, the raw, humanize everything, and make it known that, like, the everything can be you can find your foot in, you can dip your toe in, you can find ways to make it work for you. It doesn't have to seem like it's some crazy far off dream. You'll never reach this, you'll never be this person because you also don't have to. You make your own path. You find your writing style, you find what fits for you, um and remember that comparison comparison is the thief of joy, and
Yeah,
we're in an age that it's all too real and in our face every day, so we need to stop that, that's for sure.
amen.
Amazing. Well, again, so many beautiful, amazing nuggets from this conversation. We could go on and on, I'm sure, and just, pounding it into all your schools out there of all these lessons, these life lessons, and how biking can uncover some of these. And Ladies All Right is just a wonderful vessel for anyone out there who needs a little bit of what are the cheerleading support, wants to learn more. Again, so many different reasons that people do camps. It doesn't have to be just because you're trying to become a pro biker. Just go out and connect with people and learn a little maybe about yourself, about your bike, or whatever it is. So check out ladiesallride.com. Look at the show notes for all the links to follow Lindsay. If anything, start there. Like I said, she just puts amazing things in her content. I'm watching the videos all the time, like, wait, how do I climb that? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
like, and I'm out on a trail today, and I'm like, what would Lindsay do? Like, what would I do here, Lindsay? So
Boobs
so
over
follow
bars.
for yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Follow her for the tips about the tits and where they go and and all the things. So thanks everybody out there for joining us. Thank you, Lindsay, so much for joining us. And we'll talk to you all next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.